Hello class, our lesson for today is lesson 1.6, how to multiply integers. So as always, let's start with our definitions here. First definition I want you guys to think of is the distributive property. So when using multiplication, we know that a times and in parentheses b plus c is equal to ab times bc. Or basically we are going to distribute this a right here and multiply it by both numbers inside of a parentheses. So if we wanted to look at this with actual numbers instead of just variables, then we can look at 2 times 1 plus 3. So that would be equal to 2 times 1 plus 2 times 3. So let's think about why this works for a second. Well, if we're doing 2 times 1 plus 3, we can add what's in the parentheses first, right? So 1 plus 3 is 4, and 2 times 4 is 8. So if we do it that way, we'll get 8. Well, also we could do 2 times 1, which is equal to 2, plus 2 times 3, which is equal to 6. So we get 8 either way, right? So regardless of whether you add together the numbers first or whether you distribute the numbers, you'll get the same ones there. All right, next property we have is the identity property. So the identity property tells us that 1 times any number equals that number, or 1 times A equals A. Think about it, right? 1 times 5 equals 5. 1 times 8 equals 8. 1 times, 1,000, it's still going to equal 1,000, right? So whatever number we have, 1 times that will equal that number. All right, so what happens when we multiply integers? So when we're multiplying integers, similar to when we're adding and subtracting, we have to notice the sign of our two integers. So if the signs are the same, then the product will be positive. If the signs are different, then the product will be negative. Remember, multiplication is just repeated addition, right? So that's why this works. So if I have, for example, a positive times a positive, or a negative times a negative, this will give me, in the end, a positive value. But if I have a positive times a negative, or a negative times a positive, then this will give me a negative value. So if my signs are the same, i.e. two positives or two negatives, we're going to get a positive number. But if our signs are different, i.e. one of each, we're going to get a negative number. Alrighty, so let's get into some example, our goal for today. So in this lesson, we are going to master multiplying integers. We will learn the rules on when the product is going to be positive and when it's going to be negative. Okay, so first one here, we want to use a number line to show negative 10 times negative 3. All right, I think on this one it's probably best to just do it starting with the multiplication properties and then with a number line second. Or I guess we'll start with the number line here. So I have 0, do 10, 20, 30, negative 10, negative 20, negative 30. All right, so notice we have negative 10 here, right? So if I put negative 10 on my board, I should look at it like this, right? This is negative 10, so we have 0 to negative 10 here. Remember, it's asking for 3 of those, right? So 3 negative 10s would get us all the way out to negative 30. But we don't want 3 negative 10s, we want negative 3 10s. So that means we actually have to flip this number over on the other side of the number line because we should be doing the opposite of negative 10 and we'd be going up to 30. But let's just try to do that one here with just our multiplication properties. So let's look at what we got here. So I have a negative times a negative. So we should ask ourselves now, do we have the same signs or do we have different signs? It looks like to me we have the same signs, right? So that means our value is going to be positive. Now we just have to do 10 times 3, which is equal to 30. And like we already said, this is a positive 30 here. The same number we got on the number line. Okay, so we got some more examples here. So let's look at this one. Our first one, negative 6 times negative 2. That's a negative number times a negative number. Negative times a negative, that's the same sign there. So we're going to get a positive. And then 6 times 2 is 12. Alrighty, so my recording time is up here. I'm going to finish these slides up on the next video. Make sure you're watching both of them, okay, guys?